Hey everybody! Today we're going to talk about copyright laws. So this is one of those topics I think that's just a little bit confusing for everyone. Um, so we're going to just brave through it together, and hopefully by the end of this lesson, you'll understand what copyright is, what it protects, and how we can use other people's work the right way. Let's jump in. Just starting at the basics, what is a copyright? So a copyright is a law. It's going to give creators ownership over things that they make. So a song, a book, a video, a drawing, a photograph, even something like an email could be safe under copyright. So we have to be careful with that. It basically means that if somebody has created something, they automatically have rights to control how it's used. Other people aren't able to just take it and use it however they want to. So anytime you see something creative, you should assume it belongs to somebody because it probably does. What does copyright protect? There's tons of stuff covered under copyrights. Anything like writing, books, articles, music, songs, movies, videos, artwork, images, video games, websites, most things on the internet are going to fall under this. Basically, if someone has created it using their imagination and their effort, it's probably protected. You'll notice, though, that there are some things that are not protected. And the best way to think about that is that these things are going to be something that sort of universally belongs to other people, like to everybody, I mean. And that's like facts. You can't copyright a fact that the Earth orbits the sun. It just is. You can observe that. Very short phrases and sometimes titles, but not always. There are exceptions to that. Most government documents, because at least here, these are believed to belong to everybody. Also, ideas. So here's the tricky part. What's copyrighted would be the expression of an idea, right? So ideas are one of those things that you can share with anybody. Just because you have an idea, you can't assume that you're the only one that has that idea, right? So there, you're thinking, I want to make a movie, or I want to write a song. The kind of things that you would write that song about or make that movie about could be something pretty similar to what somebody else is also thinking. Just like, say you wanted to make a movie about a teenager moving into a big city, yada yada. Okay, that's been done a lot. That's just one of those more universal themes. But what is copyrighted would be the expression of that idea that you have. Somebody couldn't make it the exact same way as you because you've done it. So that would be protected. It's the expression of an idea, not the idea itself. Before we go any further, though, let's take a look at some key vocabulary just so we don't get confused while we're talking about this stuff. So a creator or an author is the person who makes the work. A license is written permission that explains how you can use that work. A credit or attribution is when you name the creator and the source. And the public domain is free for everyone to use. So these are works that the copyright has expired. They've been given up voluntarily by the creator or the creator's descendants. Or it was never applicable in the first place, so it's just in the public domain. And then we have Creative Commons, which we are going to talk about a little more later on, but just broadly, it's a set of licenses that creators use to share with rules. So sorry. Okay, so what is copyright infringement? It is when you are violating those copyright laws. So you're using a protected work without permission when permission is required. Or you are using a work that has limited permission in a way that is not permitted. So a common way that students accidentally infringe would be if you were to post a part of a movie clip with copyrighted music on social media, if you were to copy a whole image from Google into a project without checking the rights, if you were to post a popular song as your background in a video montage, something like that. Um, Important thing to remember here is that just because you don't mean to do something wrong doesn't mean that it can't still be infringement. An accident is still a problem, so it's just best to be safe and careful. When do you need permission? I think it could be tricky with this one. So just the best thing to do is just keep in mind that if you are in doubt, it's best to ask a teacher, but or an adult, somebody. Broadly, we can say if you were to use a full song, a photo, video clip, or artwork in something that you're going to share, if you were to print copies of somebody's work to hand out, post someone else's work on a website or a blog, social media, or something. Again, there is some wiggle room here, but it could get tricky. So it's best to ask if you're confused. A lot of people think that if you just give credit, then you're fine. But the truth is that giving credit doesn't automatically make it legal. You can still break some copyright rules even if you say who made it. So giving credit is awesome, it's respectful, but it doesn't replace permission. So if you were to, for example, say you were to make a presentation and you wanted to use the song, like, example, I'm going to play this popular song by Dua Lipa in the background of my video. But you say at the beginning of the video, oh, this song is by Dua Lipa. Okay, you gave credit, you didn't claim it for yourself. Maybe you put it in the credits at the end where you got the song from. That still wouldn't make it okay. The song is still copyrighted, and you don't have permissions from that creator to use that song in that way. So even though you were respectful and you gave credit and you didn't try to claim that song as your own, it still is violating the copyright laws on that. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, oh, well, there's all these hoops to kind of jump through when we're talking about copyright and copyright infringement. So how do I know if I'm doing that or if I'm not, like when I'm making something? So we'll talk just quickly about the difference here. So if you see something and it inspires you to create something, a new work that's in your own style, your own words, your own unique brand, that's not copying. You're just getting inspiration from that. If you were to take somebody's exact words, their exact drawing, their photo, or something at least very close, and call it yours, that's copyright infringement. I think that's one of the things in music, at least, that happens a lot. We see a lot of gray area with that, just because people can create things that are so similar in music and they will kind of go back and forth. Oh, was this inspired by or was this stealing? But as students, generally speaking, uh, if it's coming from your own minds and just kind of using someone else's work as, I don't know, like a muse. This is just something that encouraged you to do something, but you're still relying on your own creativity. You're usually pretty safe. A helpful question would just be to ask yourself, did I make this or did I take it from someone else? Another one that can kind of get twisted up with your copyright when we're talking about it is plagiarism. Plagiarism is more of a moral issue, more of an academic issue. It's when you're presenting someone else's work as your own. You took something from the internet and put your name on it. You asked a classmate to write something, or you paid somebody to do it, and you stuck your name on that. Plagiarism. Infringement is a legal issue. Okay, you're breaking the law when you commit infringement. Now, I think one of the reasons they get so tied up is because you can do them at the same time. They kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. You can, for the example shown here is if you were to take a photo from the internet, say, and you credit that photographer, but say you didn't look at the licenses involved in that and you infringed, you used it in a way that was not allowed. You didn't plagiarize, you gave credit, but you did infringe. And another way, another example here is that you can plagiarize public domain. It's allowed to be used. There's no copyright involved in it anymore. However, you say you took a section out of a work and you paste that and you put it in there. You didn't put any credit. You didn't put any kind of citations or whatever. That was plagiarism, but it was not copyright. But you can do both at the same time. You can take something that is not in the public domain, copy paste it into your work, and you didn't give credit, and you commit infringement and plagiarism at the same time. So they are closely related, but there is a little bit of a difference there. So just keep in mind as you go through and as you do your projects and even in your own personal lives as you're, maneuvering on the internet, is that just because it's online doesn't mean it's free to use. It's easy to access, and so I think that's one of the tempting things. It's just so easy to get to anything from Google, from YouTube, whatever. Everything is so easily acquired that it gives the kind of illusion of being free, I think. But they're not. So even screenshots, memes, and reposts can be copyrighted. Um, the chances of you getting in trouble for some of that stuff is, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, can be slim, but it's not zero. Okay, so platforms can remove content automatically because of copyright claims. I think that's one of the things that happens a lot when creators are posting videos. So just keep in mind that just because it's online doesn't mean it's free. All right, what is fair use? So this is a term that allows limited use of copyrighted material without permission or purposes, for purposes like teaching, commentary, criticism, or research. Fair use is not a magic pass to use anything however you want it to. It's very dependent upon the situation, which we will go into in just a bit. But for school, fair use is going to come into everything that you're doing way more often than for other people because it's more likely to apply to you, especially when it supports learning. So let's take a look at the way people consider how things are fair use. So we have four terms here. Purpose. Is it for teaching? Is it for learning? Is it for entertainment? Is it for money? Like why are we using this copyrighted material? Which is one of the biggest reasons that fair use is used in education. It's because, again, you're teaching or you're learning something. The amount comes into that. How much of the material was used? Was it a small piece of it or was it the main portion of the work? What is the nature of this copyrighted use? Is it creative or is it mostly factual? And then the effect. So by you using this copyrighted material, are you harming the creator's ability to sell it? For example, if you were to if you were to take, say, half of a novel and you just made copies of this and you handed it out to all your friends and whoever else, I don't know why you'd need to do that, but maybe you had a presentation or something and you just wanted access to these specific chapters and you just needed it on hand, okay? That could potentially impede or prevent the author from selling those copies. Okay, because it's a large portion of this work. If you only needed to copy a page, nobody, I mean, most likely, nobody is going to not buy a book or not buy something because they have access to one page, okay? They will still need most of the work. So that's not going to prevent the original creator from being able to sell their work. The key is more fair use friendly is going to be for things that are more educational purposes. It's a smaller amount used, and it's not something that's going to replace the original or keep the original from being able to be sold. Okie dokie. So let's talk about some examples of fair use. Um, so one or two lines of a book when you're analyzing it in class, that's more likely to fall under fair use. Okay, so we've got an educational purpose, we have a shorter amount, and we are not harming the original creator with this kind of discussion. But if you were to post an entire chapter online for your friends, that could potentially affect them. It has a longer amount, and you're looking at your purpose here as being less educational, more funsies. Okay, so that's less likely to be fair use. Using a short clip to review or critique a video, more likely to be fair use. Uploading a full movie scene because it's cool, less likely to be fair use. Look at purpose, look at the effects on the original creator, and look at the length. How much is too much? This one's tricky because there's not a hard fast rule for this. People have had content taken down for seconds of a work that they've used, a copyrighted work. So some people swear by the 10% or 30-second rule. I'm just gonna say try to make better choices, just in general, rather than follow this 10% versus 30 seconds thing. Better choices being a short quote with your explanation, a small clip used to analyze or critique, a low resolution image for discussion and citation. Riskier choices, full songs, full movies, full chapters. Okay, again, it's the full here being key. Compilation videos that are mostly someone else's content. Posting class projects publicly with lots of copyrighted media. If what you're posting is getting more attention, it's more likely to be flagged if there's copyright material on it. The longer something is, the longer your copyrighted material is, I should say, more likely it is to be flagged for this. When you're talking about compilation videos and them being most of people's content, this is a lot of other work here that you're potentially using, so more likely to get flagged for copyright infringement. So stick to small sections and give credit. We did say that giving credit is not the same thing as being allowed to use it. However, if you're using it for the kind of purposes we talked about with fair use, and you are being careful not to use content that is the heart of that piece, and you're sticking to making it as short as you're able to get away with for the purpose that you're using, it's more likely to be okay with credit. Okay, so licenses. They tell you what you're allowed to do with something. For example, you can use this photo for school projects as long as you give us credit. This is not allowed to have any edits of any kind, or this one is for non-commercial use only. Always check where you're allowed to use it, be that just the public, or if it has to be educational, like in a school, or whether there are edits, remixes allowed, whether credit is required, in which we will get into more with Creative Commons. So Creative Commons are licenses that let creators say, you can use this if you follow my rules. So these are the 6 different licenses that you can set for this. CC BY means you can use it, just give us credit. CC BY SA, you can use it with credit, but if you change it or you remix it, it has to be with something with the same license. So SA means share alike. We're going to notice here is that a lot of these licenses are going to build on each other too. So NC BY NC, give credit, but you can't use it for non-commercial use. You're not allowed to do it for anything that you're going to make money for. NCBY, excuse me, CCBY NCSA, share alike, give credit, and non-commercial use. So it's a combination of the prior three. CCBYND, give credit, but you're not allowed to change it or remix it. CCBYNC&D, give credit, you're not allowed to remix or change it, and you're not allowed to make any money from it. This is non-commercial use only. Public domain is free to use. This means that there are no copyright restrictions. You can public domain. This is free to use. It means there are no copyright restrictions. These works are public domain because the copyright has expired, the creators chose to release it, or it was just never eligible for copyright in the first place. These are free to use however you want, but please still give credit. It's still required for pretty much any school project you're going to use, and it's just a good habit to build. Now, between public domain and your Creative Commons, you've got a really nice pool for media content. When you're doing presentations or projects or whatever for school, and you need pictures, you need little video clips, you need sounds or audio, music, whatever. Usually, I'm going to look in public domain first because you don't have all the hoops to go through that you're going to have when you're dealing with licenses. But Creative Commons is still a really great place to go with it because you're still able to get more up-to-date material, I would say, more than public domain, because a lot of things that are in public domain have this, they're there because the copyright has expired. But if you're looking for more recent music or pictures or something like that, your Creative Commons is going to be more your bet. And you are able to, I'm not saying you should, go find all of your stuff from Google search, but if you were to use Google search, you can, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, but you can filter your search results based on the licenses that you want to be able to use. So it's just a really great resource. All right, so where to find and use safe images. So if you're using for school, you can go to school-approved image libraries, your Creative Commons licensed images, and your public domain images, like we talked about. Okay, you can use Google. Nobody, I'm not going to take Google from you. However, please do not go to Google search and say, oh, I would like a picture of Barack Obama. Okay, and you just pick any picture you want out of here. When you're doing that, you're not looking at the usage rights. You're not really able to save the source link so you can credit correctly. And also, we know what Barack Obama looks like, but if you were to use somebody else and say you weren't necessarily sure what that person looked like, doing it this way can be dangerous because a lot of people share the same name, or a lot of items can have similar titles, and so whenever you go and you copy paste directly from Google Images, you might not necessarily be getting accurate information either. So if you're going to use Google Images, don't just go straight and right click and save that image without going directly to the site and seeing where it's from and all that, okay? Your biggest trouble spot, I think, in this day and age and at your age, is going to be music and videos. Okay, so if you're using background music in your videos, even 10 seconds can be flagged. Okay, so all that stuff's going to be copyrighted. Your safer choice would be royalty-free or CC licensed music, music you created yourself, or school-provided audio libraries. If a platform offers an approved audio library, use that. I think YouTube offers one. A lot of those video and content creating platforms will offer a free audio bank that you can put in your video. So that's a really good tool. Remixes, memes, and edits. As we talked about before, a remix or an edit is a derivative work, and so permission is usually required. It's always required with copyrighted material, and your exceptions being stuff in the public domain. So even something as simple as a meme can contain a copyrighted image. Even if you're adding text to it, that's still editing a copyrighted image. You would still need to be really careful dealing with that kind of stuff. If your remix uses a lot of the original, especially music and videos, it's less likely to be allowed. So your best practice for that is to use CC licensed media or make your own that you want to remix. What is normally okay for class, or just pretty much just building on what we already talked about here? Small excerpts, okay? Images for teaching and learning with citation, quoting sources with explanations and bibliography, and be just really careful when you're uploading to public websites. The more traffic, more likely to get flagged. Submitting to contests, again, you're talking about the breadth of the audience, and also it's a contest, so it's being put under a microscope. Posting to social media or video platforms, same concept here. And that's all I got for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But otherwise, I'm going to turn you back over to you, teacher.